All right, so we're continuing here with the blob brush, with the rotate view tool to help us with certain angles, with the pencil tool to make corrections. Yeah. And then, even though it doesn't matter as much in illustrations as it does in things like logo design, if you see little glitches, like things where it overlaps, that's where the pencil tool comes in. You just try to keep it pretty simple, pretty understandable, right? You can spend lots and lots of time trying to perfect every edge, but that's not really the best use of the time in an illustration. So again, try not to be too picky, right? Because you can always alter anything that stands out in the end. Okay, well, I'm at this angle. Let me do some other things that work well at this angle. I think it can be helpful on this project because we're going to be coloring it in Photoshop. It can be helpful to think of it as a coloring book page, like the kind of line art we used for exercise 1 for our line art jumbles. And what do I mean by that? Well, coloring books usually have contained shapes. So if I'm drawing this circle on the knuckle, instead of having it look like this, right, which is an open shape, or like this, which is an open shape, what's good is to have it be contained, which means just like a contained path, it's a full shape, because then I can select the color inside of it as being different than the color outside of it, right? So that's what I mean by kind of a coloring book page. So as I connect these lines, I'm going from the edge of one line all the way through to the edge of the next, even if I get it a little wrong. And if it's not picking up all the subtlety of my movement, that's when I want to set it to be more accurate. Because these talons are pretty particular shapes. See how my sketch is a little open there? It will make my coloring in the next part of this project easier if I don't have those openings. If instead everything is cleanly contained. And because birds' talons are really bumpy and funky, that's why I've turned off the smooth for this hand. And I maybe want to taper this, so lightly and then go heavier. That's too much. I know I'm telling you not to be perfectionist, but I have that problem too. I think video games have trained us all to think that we can do it perfectly if we just have another chance. So we just hit Command Z a whole lot. But remember, even if you don't get it perfect, there's the pencil tool. Honestly, vectors are vastly superior to raster in terms of shapes because you do have such tight control of them, even after you've put them down. Well, I'm on this same setting for the blob brush with it being pretty accurate. I'm going to do these funky feet. Because just like the talons, bird legs are textured and odd. So I want them to be a little bit more bumpy, less smooth than the rest of my line art. The goal today is to get our line art finished so that next class we're just focused on coloring. Looks like we've got 10 more minutes. Time really flies. So now I want to get in here pretty aggressively and just ink this up. The problem, of course, with using Illustrator and these tools, which aren't available in freeware, is that we're pretty limited to just doing it within the campus studio, unless we have a copy of Illustrator for ourselves. So all the more reason to make our class time count. Now for the fabric and for these arcs, I actually do want it to be a little smoother. But before I do that, actually let me just do the other foot. All those little bumps and oddities. The problem with Art Deco designs is they're always pretty elaborate. So I've got so many shapes to ink. You can use your eraser if you need to. If you want a second chance at a line. Okay, now I'm going to go maybe with this knot, keep it more accurate for this little bundle he has on his back. But even with this string and knot, I'm going to keep them each as contained shapes. But now I'm going to go to more smooth for these other features. Like this little parcel, the little knot coming off of that is going to be nice and clean loops. Straight lines, just to get some visual contrast in the design. And this is where I was thinking I was going to extend the feathers. Ah, too smooth for that though. Bummer. I liked that. All right. taper in, taper in. You see how that kind of smooths it out. And once you get used to your line weight, you can go pretty quickly. Little feather textures. And now I gotta bring it back to an angle I can use. An illustration technique is to thicken as you come into a V, like that, in order to get some depth. Sometimes that can help if you don't want to have to correct it with the pencil tool. And it's one of the benefits of using a gestural line is that you can change your thickness throughout. All right, so we're going to save this. I'm not going to post anything new to Canvas. I already have my sketch and my inspiration posted, along with a description of my theme. And that's because in order to post a vector to Canvas, you have to take it into a raster program first and then save it out as a PNG. And I don't need to take the time to do that yet because I'm still working on it. Whoops. There we go. But very important to save your work as you go and to make sure you have access to your AI file, even if you're not going to be able to work on it until Monday's class, which is where we'll pick up. We'll finish off our line art, and then we'll learn how to add color. So I'm going to save my work. It's not quite finished, but it's pretty close. Right? Just a few details left, so Command S. Make sure I know where it's saving. Saving right to here. No, indeed, it's actually saving to the desktop. So I want to replace the older one, and I'll open it from there when I next work on it. Mark it green. Mark my sketch as orange because that goes to Canvas. It's already there. Now, what can you do in preparation? If you can't keep working on your vector line art, what can you do? You can look at these slides. Because as we talk about coloring next class, it's really good to have some background understanding of digital coloring. And we don't have any digital honors students to give us that in this section. I do have that in the morning section. So digital coloring is exactly like what you see here. This is actually some past student work, but putting color underneath your line art. And we'll see lots of examples of approaches. And we'll see how the options for coloring have changed with print technology. So next class we'll be talking about flatting and then local flat color and then duotone color, hard edge versus soft edged, and then full spectrum color, effects like highlights and color holds. And ultimately that will give us the full control of the coloring. Right? So it works, whether it's simple or whether it's complicated. So this is kind of a little time lapse of this digital coloring with the sketching